When it comes to making a difference for the environment, most Australians want to do the right thing. But in many cases, it is not as easy as it sounds. A lack of regulation, misleading labels and downright dodgy practice means that trying to live and consume in a sustainable manner can be extremely difficult. Journalist Julian Lee set out to write a newspaper article on ethical consumerism. It ended up as an entire book. Sky News reporter Georgia Hawkins spoke with Julian this week.
Julian, welcome. We're talking about ethical consumerism, although it strikes me before we even start that that seems to be a bit of a contradiction in terms. Isn't part of this whole problem that we are consuming too much at too great a rate?
Yes, that is definitely part of the problem, but I think what this book shows is that maybe for you to question the way in which you are consuming. So instead of just consuming blindly and making choices that you've always made, you're maybe applying a different set of criteria. So maybe you're aligning your social values instead of just looking at something with its price, quality, convenience. And I also think that it makes you question your consumerism. And instead of always just thinking about what you want, you start questioning whether or not you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us briefly your story, how you came about to go on this mission, I guess.
Well, initially it was actually, I was just sent on an assignment by my newspaper to be an ethical consumer for 2 days. And that was long enough for me to realise there was something there, but not nearly long enough for me to really uncover it. But what began as basically a rational assignment soon became a bit of an emotional journey for myself and my family as we tried to discover the best way to be ethical consumers.
Talking about some of the challenges that prevent people doing this, I love your anecdote at the beginning of the book where you talk about being in a sustainability class, and it's almost like Alcoholics Anonymous where you say, I'm Julian and I use Jif. Is part of the problem that old habits die hard? We're just so used to using these products. And
that's exactly what manufacturers want us to do. They've ingrained these habits through successful and sophisticated marketing. So like in this class, which I was trying to get to know more about the toxicity of products in our home, it became very apparent to me just how wedded I was to like a brand like Jif, because it's such a useful and actually pretty good product. But trying to chuck that out and maybe sort of use things like vinegar or bicarbonate of soda or natural products is a lot harder and takes more work.
Talking about marketing, it's a huge problem, isn't it? Because the words sustainable or the term environmentally friendly are used so much in terms of products. And people trust that, should they?
No, they've got to read the label, they've got to see whether or not they can trust that particular company behind it. They should do their research and look to see whether or not that is an ethical company. And ethics is a very subjective area. But I think that these people have got to look much more closely at some of the terminology. And in fact, you'll see that the competition watchdog is scrutinising some of these claims very carefully indeed. So I think we're going to be seeing some changes coming up in the not-too-distant future.
Which is a good thing, because there is such a large proportion of people who want to do the right thing and are trying to do the right thing, but they really do just blindly trust labels when they can't.
Yes, and I think that's why you've got about, according to the research that I've seen, you've got about 1 in 4 Australians actually want to do the right thing, and they want to buy products that are either ethical or environmentally sound, but only about 8% of Australians are doing so. Now, in the UK, about 10% of all the products bought are now bought along ethical or environmental lines. So that suggests to me that if consumers here in Australia were given a helping hand, we'd see that gap being closed quite considerably.
You give those statistics, and you also say in the book that ethical consumerism is not just a passing fad. How committed do you think people are if it means spending more money?
I think initially they're going to have to spend more. Like in a sort of fair trade cup of coffee, you can expect to pay no more than 20% more per cup of fair trade latte. Initially, I think people are going to have to pay more, but I think as the market grows, you're going to get economies of scale, and you're going to get an ethical market or an environmentally sound product market out there, which is going to be much more, in terms of the price, it's going to be much more even with mainstream products.
People, I think, would be surprised, certainly I was surprised reading the book, how something as simple as making a choice between 2 brands of biscuits or a cotton T-shirt really has a huge impact, doesn't it, environmentally?
It does. I mean, some of the biscuits that we have here in Australia, in fact, 1 in 10 supermarket products are made out of palm oil. Palm oil is a very versatile oil. It's used in things like lipstick, it's used in fast food, and it's used in biscuits. But palm oil is grown in areas where there's been rainforest has been cleared, so we're getting rid of the sink for all that carbon dioxide. And it's an ingredient that you can never see on the package unless you really know what you're looking for. And that's what I try to do in my book, is at least give people some of the tips to know what to look out for and the sort of products that might have, say, palm oil in them.
Obviously, going from writing an article on this to writing a book, you must have been surprised as well when you started delving into a little deeper than just looking at various products.
I was, and it was something that myself and my family embarked upon. We try to sort of do everything now along ethical lines, and it can be a real headache, and we're still doing it. But one of the biggest surprises to me was the amount of sweatshop labour in Australia. There's about 300,000 Australians who are working in suburban homes for about $3.75 an hour, toiling over sewing machines, making T-shirts, and one of which I saw in a major chain store the other day, which was for $15. It said, "Buy this T-shirt and save the world," and it was an organic cotton T-shirt. Well, to get that organic cotton T-shirt for $15 into the stores, you can bet that someone elsewhere was having to take a hit in their wages. So it has been a real journey.
Yeah, absolutely, and an amazing read. You say that you haven't made any sacrifices.
I don't think we have. I think initially it's quite a lot of hard work, having to scrutinise things, having to constantly go to the internet and verifying claims or asking the companies to back up the claims. I mean, use that customer hotline, put the questions to the companies. But after a while, it became second nature to us and our family, and I think we've just learnt to question how much we're consuming, and it just goes back to what we were saying earlier on. I think we really sort of consider whether or not we need something rather than just wanting something. So in the end, I think we've improved as a family.
Julian Lee, thank you. It's a real eye-opener. Congratulations.
Thank you.